the top 5 hitchhiker trap spots on the Family House map in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Before we get started, real quick, I'll say no webcam because we got a lot of information to get through and we want to get through it quick. And number 2, yes, I understand that the tech test for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game is over, but I am putting out these videos anyway, so hopefully it'll give you a leg up for when the game fully releases on August 18th. So let's jump into it. First, let's take a look at the Family House map. You'll see here that I have a few different locations. I got the locations of the fuse boxes in the house. Now, all 3 of these fuse box locations, if I can talk, are located upstairs. So this isn't the most accurate representation because this map will only show the bottom floor or the first floor. Then these red dots will denote where the generators spawn. This little black line here is like a fence. And there's a generator that'll spawn here and a generator that'll spawn back in this shed. And then, of course, this is the water valve exit. This is just to let you know that you can't get through here from the side yard. And then back here is where the battery exit is. It's where there are car batteries, and you electrify that back exit as well. So, number 1, my first favorite spot, favorite trap spot, are what I like to call noob traps. Noob traps or trap 2 save 1. It's kind of 2 different things in one. So noob traps are what I call simply trapping an objective, just like this. So this is when the generator spawns out front of the house, right in front of that fence that I mentioned earlier, and you just put a trap right in front of the generator. And the reason that I call it a noob trap is because it's something that I think is only really effective against players who don't know what they're doing. The nice thing is that even as victim players become savvier and understand that they need to disable the hitchhiker's traps and that they can disable them with a bone shard, it still forces them to bring a bone shard with them. So at the very least, they can't stack healing items or things like that. It does force them to bring a specific item, which that alone could potentially slow them down, especially if somebody is trying to escape really fast by jumping out of the front window. They can't just do that with no items, go turn off the generator and make a break for the exit. They're going to have to slow down, stop, find a bone shard pile, and get one. Otherwise, they're going to step in the trap and more than likely get caught by the hitchhiker. So I like putting them right in front of the objectives. Here's the one right in the backyard in front of the car battery. And then finally, you can also trap in front of the fuse box wherever it spawns upstairs. Right here is one of the potential fuse box spawn locations. So you can either put it right in front of the fuse box, or like on this spawn, you could even put it right in the doorway. It doesn't really matter. The other thing that I refer to this as is trap 2 save 1, which means you're going to trap 2 of the objectives and save 1 trap to carry with you, just so you could cut off different infinite loop spots. So for instance, like right around this corner is a very long crawl space. You could put a trap there if somebody keeps looping you through there and you're all alone and you're not getting backup from teammates. This is something you should really only probably be doing if you have teammates who aren't communicating. If they are communicating, they're working together, you could probably lay down all 3, because if somebody does just camp at an infinite, then it's not a big deal, because you could just communicate to your team and tell them, hey, get up here, let's kill this person, and you're good to go. So yeah, either noob traps or trap 2 save 1 is one of my top hitchhiker trap spot. And I also want to clarify too that you'll notice I'm not saying to trap the water valve, because the water valve can actually spawn. I didn't even mark them on the map, but one can spawn kind of right here, and one can spawn on the side of the fence in the side yard over here. Now, it's a little bit relevant in a second here when I get to one of my next favorite trap spots, but the reason that I didn't mark it is because I don't think you ever really should trap the water valve, either where the valve handle itself spawns or the water valve itself. I don't think you should trap either because it is the one objective that you can stop. So if you hear the water valve go off, you can actually go find it and shut it down before the water valve exit actually opens. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's not a priority to trap, because if they turn off the generator, now the generator is on cooldown and you can't even reactivate it by before they actually just run out of the exit. That's true of all three of the other exits, with the exception of the back exit where the car battery is. They do need to like lock pick that exit to get out, which is kind of weird because on the slaughterhouse map they have to lock pick their way out of both exits, but on this map they don't have to lock pick their way out of the main exit right here, which is kind of strange. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend trapping any part of the water valve because you could shut that down before they're able to get out, as long as you remain attentive. So number 2, my second favorite trap spot, is the stairs leading upstairs. Now you can trap down here or at the top of the stairs. It doesn't really matter. A lot of times I like to do the bottom of the stairs just because it's harder to see at the bottom of the stairs, and I think it's easier to trap people unaware because they're just not going to look out for the trap. So even if they have a bone shard, they may not see it. But the top of the stairs works too. But this is the main stairs that leads right out to the front door. I like trapping this because it's just a high traffic area. People tend to use it quite a bit. There is another staircase on the opposite side that they can get up, so they could just avoid this altogether. But the nice thing is that there's a bunch of doors that lead to that area. So like if they, for instance, if you get Grandpa to spawn here where he is here, they're going to have to walk past him and more than likely reveal themselves. Otherwise, they'd have to go all the way around to the left. And if they go all the way around to the left, there's a bunch of doors they got to pick lock to get through first before they can get up that other flight of stairs that's over here. So I like trapping this. This is a decent little spot because a lot of times players, victim players, especially on this map, are going to rush the fuse box. They're going to want to try to get to the fuse box. Now, if you have a really good cook, then he could potentially patrol upstairs and in the house in general and protect the fuse box, and then maybe you don't need to trap here. So I'd recommend if you have a really good cook, you probably don't need to trap the stairs, but it's a decent spot if you have a cook who's not playing in the house, not guarding the fuse box, not communicating. So I also really like that spot. My number 3 favorite trap spot is the front window. The front window is right next to the front door. The front door is like right over here, and you'll see old Hitchhiker here is trapping that front window. And the main reason that you want to do that is because people have a tendency, if you have locked down the front 2 doors, they'll want to make a mad dash for the exit and jump out the front window for any number of reasons. There's a lot, like maybe if the water valve spawned over there outside to the right, they might want to jump out the window. If the cook has padlocked the front 2 doors and the only way to really get out of the front of the house is to either lock pick or jump out the front window, they might just opt to jump right out the front window. And also, it's a good place to trap if for some reason your generator out front has been deactivated and they're free to just run out of the front of the house. Then they might almost certainly try to jump out the window and just make a dash for it. It's also a really good place to trap against really good teams, because really good teams, if they're grouped up, which this wasn't as much of an issue in the tech test because people couldn't group up unless they tried to Q snipe each other. But when they can group up, it's going to become a problem, I promise you. So I'm preparing you for the launch of this game. There will be players who will queue up together and they will both jump out of the window at the same time. So even if the generator is active and even if the generator is trapped, they will have one person step in the trap and then just tap to get out of it instantly while the other person disables the generator. And that'll be kind of like super quick method of escaping out of the front gate that people will attempt to use. That's why I think trapping the front window may be a good idea, especially at launch. So my number 4 favorite trap spot is the side yard door right here. You're probably going to have to just put it right there, right at the top of this little mini staircase here, because otherwise I think they can kind of get around it if you're trying to trap at the bottom of that little mini staircase. I don't know why I'm calling it a staircase. It's just a few steps. But yeah, trapping it right there where my cursor is probably the best way to go. Trapping there is a good idea because, number one, I know that I said I wasn't going to talk about, water valve spawns, but it's relevant in this case. I did allude to that earlier. Water valve can spawn in the side yard here. If the water valve spawns over here, it's not a huge deal because if you're playing Hitchhiker, this is probably going to be, or Leatherface, it's probably going to be part of your regular patrol route because you're going to be checking this gen, coming through here, checking the water valve, or even checking this gen if it spawned here, and then also checking the car battery back here. So that might be part of your normal patrol route. If the water valve spawns over here, it's a little more out of the way in the side yard. So I would even say that if you get the water valve spawn in the side yard, that it is almost a necessity to trap here. Because it'll cover that water valve, and it will cover an area that survivors like to use to get out of a bind. Like if they get caught in the house, they tend to retreat to the side yard because they have a well out there. There's a well out there that they could retreat to. They have some really nice loops over there that they could get away from the family and kind of waste their time. And then even if the family calls over another member to help, they can then just make a mad dash for the well and get out of there completely. And now you just wasted all your time because you were chasing them and you didn't even wind up getting a kill. So it really kills 2 birds with 1 stone if you put a trap here, if the water valve spawns back there. If it doesn't, same thing still applies. You may still want to trap the side exit just because it gets rid of the primary means of escaping the family should they get caught while they are inside the house. Most people are going to retreat either here to the side yard or they're going to go upstairs and try to utilize those loops. And then my number 5 is going to be the side door on the front of the house. This is the side door that kind of leads out to this little porch. This is a good one to trap if your cook has not padlocked it. This is probably going to be a pretty popular padlock spot. I'd say 99.9% of the time, the cook should padlock the front door. Whether or not they padlock the second side door that's on the front of the house, who knows? I'd say most cooks don't, but if they do, don't worry about putting a trap there. But if they don't, you could put a trap there to help cover the other front part of the house. It's really up to you. I would say that if they have padlocked it, go ahead and trap that front window. If they haven't, then you probably want to trap the front door. And then it's also going to vary depending on where Grandpa spawned. Like if Grandpa spawns in that room, maybe it's not as much of a priority because he's got a good chance of letting you know when a survivor, or a victim, I should say, is nearby. So I like trapping here because, again, you don't want to let people get out of the front of the house because that's going to be the easiest way to escape when the game fully launches and people can group up, is just going straight for the main exit on the main road. And one last thing that I want to make note of after presenting you my top 5 Hitchhiker trap spots is that this generator spawn, I probably would not recommend putting a trap on this. Even if you are a fan of doing the noob traps or trap 2 save 1, I wouldn't put a trap here because a bone pile spawns inside this shed, like literally 5 feet from this generator. So even if somebody comes over here and they don't have a bone shiv with them, there's a bone pile 5 feet away. So your trap's going to be completely irrelevant. They can just immediately grab a shard, come over here and disable your trap like it wasn't even there. So I'd say trapping this generator is going to be useless most of the time. I'd say you should probably only trap this generator when it spawns out front if you're going to do that. If it spawns over here and you get the water valve over here, then I would say go ahead and trap the side door. That should be your priority. Go ahead and do, forget the generator, do fuse box, car battery out back, and then trap the side yard. So then you're taking care of this whole space plus the water valve. That's what I would do. I would never really trap this generator. So there you go. There's my top 5 trap spots when playing as the Hitchhiker on the family house map. If you enjoyed the video, if this was helpful to you, please like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And more than that, if you have any good ideas for trap spots, please leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'm always down to learn more. Maybe somebody's got a really genius trap spot that I haven't even thought of yet. Please leave that in the comments and let me know. And if there's one that's really good, that really blows my mind, I'll pin the comment to try to help others as much as possible. But once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.